Okay, everything looks good. Audio. Excuse me.
Hey there. Don't mind me. I was just checking out what you were doing in here.
Kinda in the middle of something here. So, could you, like, go?
Oh, yep. Sorry about that. I'll let you get to it then there, fella.
Strangers, am I right? Strangers are a huge part of our lives. We meet them all day, every single day. And you might think since they're always around, we have a pretty solid understanding of them. Right? Wrong! In what's often characterized as his most controversial book, Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell shows us some of the strategies we use to make sense of strangers, and why he thinks they suck. In this video, we'll explore all those strategies in depth and learn how they limit us. For more great book summary videos, subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit that notification button. And if you find this video helpful, hit that like button and let us know what you think. Or if you're like me and think Gladwell's a little out of pocket in this book, the comments are a safe venting space. No offense, Malcolm. Okay, so first of all, Gladwell starts the book with two burning questions. 1, why can't we tell when a stranger is lying? And 2, why does meeting a stranger directly make it harder to understand them than just simply leaving it to the imagination? Keep those in mind and let us know after the video what you think the answers are. Anyway, Gladwell thinks in order to answer these questions correctly, we need to analyze the automatic strategies we use when we first meet people. So let's get right into the details. According to Mr. Gladwell, one of the biggest strategies we use with strangers is just assuming they're telling the truth. You're probably wondering, okay, but why would we make such a reckless assumption? Well, in Gladwell's view, we can't help it. It's a built-in mechanism. And this view's supported by something called the truth default theory. A theory that says the reason we're easily lied to is because our default is to assume others are being truthful. Gladwell's evidence for this theory is the work of the psychologist who came up with it, Tim Levine. Levine has done numerous experiments about truth and deception. In one of these experiments, Levine offered participants a cash prize if they could get the questions right on a trivia quiz. Each participant got a partner to work with, but this turned out to be a ruse. The partner was a plant. An imposter. One of Levine's assistants in disguise. Anyone else seeing the irony of starting off a study on deception with deception? Just me? Okay, alright, moving on. Anyway, at a certain point in the study, the imposter partner basically tried to peer pressure the other participants into cheating on the quiz. After the quiz was over, Levine asked each participant if they had cheated. Then he watched the interview tapes and put people into either a liar category or the truth teller category. Finally, he showed the tapes to other people who he'd asked to guess who was lying and who wasn't. Turns out, most people assumed the participants were telling the truth, unless they did something blatantly suspicious. Boom. Truth default theory. The theory isn't all bad though. Something cool Gladwell mentions is that it's actually very beneficial to survival because it promotes social harmony. Basically, if you trust the people you're communicating with are being honest, communication is more efficient. Assuming honesty also just makes it easier to build mutually trusting relationships in general. And I mean, it's still naive, but like in a cute way. This is true for the majority of jobs that I do. See, when you do film work, especially when you're acting, these jobs max out at a couple of days. You don't have time to build trust with anyone. You have to show up as a professional and trust that everyone else will be one too. And most of the time they are. Most of the time. But if you don't give people trust and respect right up front, your relationships and your work are going to suffer. Now, this next strategy is closely tied to the last one, and it's part of the reason Gladwell thinks that we understand strangers less when we meet them directly versus staying at a distance. Basically, he thinks we tend to assume people will be transparent about who they are. Why is this a problem? Well, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but people aren't exactly transparent. In fact, according to Gladwell, human transparency is a whole entire myth. We'll get into why, but first let's unpack transparency. How does it work? Expecting transparency means that we assume that how people come across outwardly is how they are on the inside. We assume what we see is what we get. And the book actually states that we base most of our assumptions about others based on facial expressions and demeanors. The problem with that is we only have our experience with those things. A certain expression or demeanor can mean one thing to us and something something entirely different to the person wearing them. There are also plenty of times where people just plaster on a fake smile to hide uglier emotions.
Sometimes I hide my tears behind a smile.
Could you just try to keep it down?
Oh, yep. No problem there, buddy. I'll be quiet.
Anyway, so really we can't see through a stranger. The only way to get to a point where someone is even close to transparent to you is to get to know them really well over time. So why do we so easily assume people are transparent? The answer goes back to survival. Just like assuming people are telling the truth, assuming transparency supports social security. The more quickly and accurately we can communicate emotions to each other, the greater our chances of survival as a group. We feel most comfortable when someone's outward demeanor fully reflects their intentions. And fun fact, Gladwell also refers to this assumption of transparency as the Friends fallacy, named after the wildly popular TV show Friends. According to the book, psychologist Jennifer Fugit, an expert on coding facial expressions, did a study on the show. She watched an episode and coded all of the expressions of each character. Her analysis showed that the characters all portrayed their inner emotions through matching outward facial expressions. In other words, the characters were entirely transparent. So the show's massive popularity then is a testament to how much we love transparency. Or just a testament to how few TV show options we had before Netflix.
Boo! Boo your terrible opinions! Boo!
Alright, you can stop the hate! Never seen the show anyway, so don't keep coming for me, strange popcorn man. But, if you get this video 100 likes, I'll watch the whole series. Come on! Come on! On a more serious note, as built in as this assumption is, it's really not realistic to use it blindly. Expecting patterns in facial expressions to be predictable is a recipe for disaster. People are complicated, even when you come from the same background. And things get even more complicated when you expect transparency across cultures. A gesture or expression that means one thing in one culture can mean something completely different to someone from another. If you ignore all that nuance, you're definitely on the road to making wrong assumptions and creating pointless conflict or confusion as a result. Hence, how you can end up with a worse understanding of people after you've met them than you did beforehand. To recap, the first two strategies concern our understanding of a stranger as an individual. The final strategy Gladwell explores deals with the context of that stranger's life and how that affects their behavior. Speaking of behavior, the third ineffective strategy Gladwell thinks that we're using is we're ignoring coupled behaviors. Coupled behaviors are behaviors linked to a certain context. For example, when someone acts out, we generally don't think about how the environment or their life history could have led to that behavior. You just think, hey. But in reality, our behavior really is often dependent on where and when we're interacting. So in Gladwell's view, the only way to truly see the complexity of a stranger is to be aware of these factors. This is where the controversy gets in. The book has numerous direct, often triggering examples he chooses to explore in depth, but we're not going to go into those. So instead, we'll use some smaller examples to illustrate the points that Malcolm is attempting to make here. Alright, back to coupled behavior. You ever travel in an airport and get caught up people watching? Maybe you've observed a man sitting off in a corner alone with his luggage. Or a parent traveling solo with their 3 rowdy kids. Or maybe a pair of people you assume to be a couple in a heated conversation. And let's say you see the solo parent snap at their kids in a loud outburst. Your first instinct might be to immediately judge them as bad parent. You might even think like, maybe I should step in and defend these kids. This instinct would likely come from assuming that the behavior is without context. However, if you assume that this is coupled behavior, you might consider the circumstances that led to the outburst. What if, the parent has just lost a loved one, and so they're dealing with grief and traveling and a bunch of kids? What if the family arrived too late for their flight the night before and they've been in the airport all night? You can't do anything about that, especially when you gotta watch 3 kids! In other words, what if this behavior is attached to a context you're not aware of? Basically, the lesson of this strategy is be careful what conclusions you allow yourself to make about others. Because more often than not, there's a lot you don't know about people you don't know. Okay, wait, that can't be right. Gladwell doesn't just leave us hanging at your strategies for dealing with strangers suck, does he? Well, kinda, but not entirely. And while I can't decide if this is a good thing or not, he does have a few brief parting words of advice on not sucking. Number 1. Learn how to forgive how susceptible people are to the truth default theory. Don't judge yourself or others for not picking up on dishonesty. It's really not your fault. It's biology. Number 2, keep in mind how important honesty is to survival. We're supposed to be able to connect with each other. It's built in. So don't get so paranoid about people lying that you avoid community or connection. Number 3 is accept that there's no foolproof way to get a transparent read on strangers. Remember, the through line here is that there are limits to our ability to know another person's truth. So expecting strangers to get an accurate read on you, trusting your or someone else's immediate perception of a stranger, not good habits. Avoid them. Basically, to sum it up, just be mindful of the conclusions you make about strangers. The most accurate assumption you can make is that there's a lot you don't know. As long as you keep that in mind, you'll avoid most of the pitfalls of stranger danger. Listen to your parents on stranger danger. You don't need to listen to me. The book has lots of insights into dealing with strangers that we didn't have time to cover in this video. If you want to go deeper, check out the Shortform Guide to Talking to Strangers. Shortform makes the world's best guides to nonfiction books, complete with well-crafted short exercises to help you learn faster and remember more. You can get a 5-day free trial and a discounted annual subscription if you go to shortform.com/YouTube. Click the link in the description below. And support the author and publisher by buying Talking to Strangers. A link to buy the book is below as well. And finally, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next short form video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Alright, man. Let's give this another shot. What the heck did you say your name was?